Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having a fantastic Friday, wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. I am getting ready to roll out later this afternoon down to Zany's, where I am Adam Carolla's guest on his podcast. If you are interested in watching Adam Carolla tonight in Nashville, you can come hang out with us there. He's going to do his comedy special after I am his guest. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun in the downtown Nashville area. Also, I'm going to have a great weekend. And I encourage all of you to have fantastic weekends. Go live your lives. Get the economy back rolling. I hope you're back to work. If you're not back to work, quit being a slacker and get back to work. All right? But that's what's going on for me. As soon as I finish this show, I'll be headed downtown here in a little bit to do that at Zany's. All right, coronavirus update. This is the biggest takeaway of the week from the coronavirus. There's been no spike in cases in the wake of the protest. So everybody out there who's been saying, oh my God, if there's large gatherings of people anywhere in this country, then the number of people who have the coronavirus is going to skyrocket. It actually hasn't happened. There has been no skyrocketing numbers so far. And people say, well, it's going to take 2 weeks. Well, not really. The average incubation period is 4 to 5 days. So we've reached the point now on Friday where for everybody who protested basically through Sunday, the average person who was going to get sick from the coronavirus is now sick. And so as a result, we haven't seen any kind of spike at all. So why does that matter? If you're a sports fan, like I am, it means that the idea of having full stadiums, especially by the fall, is very much of a possibility. Because the virus doesn't discriminate based on what the reason is why people are in close proximity. And there now is a pretty strong precedent that if you are outdoors in close proximity with tens of thousands of other people, there's not actually going to be any significant spike in general from the coronavirus. So this is a big deal if you're a sports fan. It may be the biggest immediate impact of any of the protests at all is that sports now, I don't understand if you're making an argument for why sports can't be outdoors and can't have crowds. There now is a precedent to point to and say the protests are not leading to a spike, a runaway rate in the infection rate. Now, I told you this last week. I said what the media will do. You can read me regularly. You can watch me regularly. I told you what was going to happen. I said as soon as the protest story fades and the riots fade and all of the stories surrounding that fade, there will be an immediate media pivot back to, oh my God, the coronavirus is still here. And the way they're going to pivot, I said, is they're going to pick out like one state or two states, and they're going to focus exclusively on them, and they're going to be like, oh my God, everybody's getting sick here. They're going to flood the zone with fear porn, and that's exactly what's happened. What I would say is pay attention to the death rate. The death rate in states where supposedly there is a massive surge in cases, which isn't really reflected, is still way below the death rate in states like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York even, that are basically shut down. So we've got states that are 100% open. Let's use Florida as an example. Florida has got a lower death rate, even right now, 100% open for nearly 2 months, than way more of the states that are quote-unquote closed are, right? Pennsylvania, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, they all have more people dying of the coronavirus despite the fact that they're locked down than certainly Florida or Arizona or Texas do, and those states are all open back up. So the data points are clear here. Open back up the country. It's time to get back to work. Try to protect people in nursing homes, but the country is going to be fine. That is the biggest story of the week in the coronavirus. Here's another lesson. I don't know why people don't listen to your boy. I have my finger on the pulse of America. I am in charge of talking to all 50 states every morning, and our show continues to surge in growth even while sports hasn't been going on. April's the biggest month ever. March was the biggest month ever. We've done 4 consecutive months. March, the biggest month ever for Outkick. April then became the biggest month ever for Outkick. May then became the biggest month ever for Outkick. June is now going to become the biggest month ever for Outkick. Why is that? Because there is an absolute lack of common sense in anybody talking about sports by and large right now. And there is a mass desire and a mass appeal for someone who's just going to be right down the middle, who's not trying to play favorites, who's going to talk to his audience like they are intelligent people. And as a result, we are skyrocketing. Our numbers are skyrocketing across the board. Videos, podcasts, website, Twitter feed, whatever you want to say. If it's associated with Outkick right now, it keeps setting new records every single month. And that's interesting because you know who's not setting records every single month? ESPN, over the last 2 weeks, their audience has completely collapsed. The likes of which we've never seen in the history of ESPN. And that is because they have embraced woke center. This is a stat for you that's going to blow your mind. Jay Leno's Garage on CNBC. There is a show called Jay Leno's Garage. It outrated every studio programming show on ESPN on Wednesday. Let me repeat that. Jay Leno's Garage on CNBC outrated every ESPN studio show yesterday. And the numbers that were put up by the shows are lower than has ever existed in the history of the network. Now, people can say, well, sports is not going on. But nobody else is collapsing like this. Skip Bayless has been doing the same show for 10 years now. And Undisputed on ESPN, on FS1 was closer to First Take on ESPN than has ever happened before. It's not that that other networks are collapsing like ESPN is. And I think it's because they've gone full on Caitlyn Jenner, man, woman of the year, ESPY of the year, whatever you want to call it. They have gone full on into woke center. And as a result, their programming audience is collapsing. It's a story as old as time. I tell you what happens. The charge of the woke brigade, ESPN follows them right off the cliff, and their viewership collapses in the process. And I'd like to say, yes, somebody just said in the comments, welcome to all the ex-ESPN listeners. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody out there who initially was not aware of who I was, and you have now found me, and as a result, you are helping to swell my audience. I appreciate that. That's been the story that we have seen happen over and over and over again. Okay, a couple of other things that are going on right now. Again, going to Adam Carolla for his podcast. We're going to do it live, 7 o'clock, Zanies. Should be fun. I'm looking forward to getting out and talking to everybody. There's now an NBA player rebellion over what I believe was a stupid decision that was made by the NBA. And let me explain what I mean. The NBA made an awful decision to put all of its players in a bubble and basically insist that they be quarantined. This decision would have made sense in April when you look at the data. It no longer makes sense now. So I don't blame NBA players who were sitting around saying, wait a minute, we're going to be for 6 weeks to 3.5 months inside of basically a Disney World bubble where we can't get out and do anything. I don't blame anybody for complaining. What the NBA should be doing is coming back in, like they want to finish the season in Orlando for like 2 weeks. That could make sense. But then they should play the playoffs in their home venues. This is going to look ludicrous for the NBA to have no fans present while college football, the NFL, NASCAR, the PGA, all of the other sports that are going on are going to have fans present. And the NBA is going to be playing in a bubble for 3.5 months with no fans present. It makes no sense. It's absolutely illogical for that to be a decision that's being made. So I don't blame the players. I would just say straightforward, why aren't we playing in our home venues? If you make the playoffs, you can play a 2-3-2, right? 2 games at home, 3 games on the road, 2 more games at home. Everybody's flying on charter jets. It's not like they're flying in the C group on Southwest in the middle seat in an aisle. This is just a poor leadership decision by Adam Silver that doesn't make any sense at all. By the time we get to the end of July, based on the trend lines for the coronavirus, it doesn't appear that there are going to be that many people with the virus in general. And let me just say this. A lot of talk about the coronavirus has started to disappear and dissipate. A lot of people don't realize this. 7,500 people die every single day in this country. That sucks. I wish no one ever died. But we are now talking about the coronavirus being a small fraction of the number of people who are dying every day in this country. And we don't shut anything down for the 7,500 people who die every single day, the 2.8 million who die, all right? What we need to do is keep this out of the immune suppressed, out of nursing homes, do our best to make sure that if anybody's going to get ill, that it's people under the age of 50 who have virtually no negative impacts from this. And so this decision by the NBA, it's never made any sense to me. Major League Baseball continues to be a mess. Let me just look right into the camera here. Rob Manfred guaranteed 100% that they were going to be back. You should be back now. What I believe is there's nobody out there who's going to feel sorry for millionaires and billionaires who can't get their deal worked out. There are 40 million people unemployed. Over 100 million people probably have taken pay cuts. Virtually everyone out there working is working in a more dangerous environment than Major League Baseball players or NBA players would be. This is a time where athletes need to recognize who pays their salary. Fans pay all of athletes' salaries. If fans don't believe that you are doing your part in a time of difficulty, they'll find other ways to spend their time. There has never been more entertainment options out there than exist right now. I finished Ozark last night. I got 1,000 shows that I can sit and watch on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. Kids today have got so many more options than you or I did when we were kids. And so this idea that baseball and basketball and football players have that, oh, it doesn't really matter what the fans think, they're going to show up no matter what. I don't think they understand that social media is not real life. Just because people like things that you might do on social media doesn't mean that fans are going to follow you no matter what you do. People like games. They don't necessarily like the things outside of the games. And if you alienate your audience, they'll leave. Look, this is different. A lot of people on social media take their lead off of the fact that what they say may be positive with one segment of the population. But when you're in business like they're in business, you need everybody to like your product. And I think older school athletes understood this. For instance, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, they understood they had to grow the NBA brand. In order for their brand to succeed, the overall NBA brand had to succeed. And so they tried to appeal to everyone. There are a lot of players now that don't understand that. They're standing on the shoulders of giants who built this league, and they think they built it themselves. It's not true. The overall popularity of the league is integral to players being able to be paid well. And because that disconnect exists now between player salaries and fan attendance and fan television ratings, a lot of players have lost understanding and comprehension that essentially they are entertainers. And if the product out there is not that entertaining, fans can go elsewhere and find something else. When I was a kid, there weren't a lot of options. If you missed your favorite show, it wasn't that easy to watch it later in the day. There weren't a ton of entertainment options. I couldn't watch every movie that had ever existed, every television show that had ever existed. There wasn't a DVR. And so I think there is a lot of player salary dollars that are in danger. Players have gotten used to the idea that salaries always go up. That's not how business works. When your business is not as popular as it used to be, you take a pay cut eventually. And I think there's a strong argument that a lot of sports out there are not as popular as they used to be, and pay cuts might be coming. All right, Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, who's done a good job with the coronavirus. We had him on the program a couple of weeks ago. He signed a bill in Florida that could fundamentally alter the way college athletes are compensated. He signed a bill that allows college athletes in the state of Florida to make money off their name, image, and likeness. As a capitalist, I'm in favor of this. I think we need a national legislation, however, to avoid individual states trying to figure out what the rules should be. But props to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on this law. As a capitalist, I believe you should be compensated for your talents to the highest possible degree. I'm a markets-based capitalist believer, and I've never believed that you should, for instance, not be able to sell your autograph if you're a college kid. And so I think this is positive. I think it's the right result. Props to the state of Florida for passing it. And now we need national legislation to go across the board. Now, the devil's in the details on a lot of this stuff. I think the schools are going to have to confirm what endorsements, for instance, are allowed. And, you can't have a situation where, for instance, as funny as it would be, a player has to deal with a strip club or a liquor company or a gambling company, right? They need an overall clearinghouse in the school to figure out whether the endorsement is appropriate and allowable for the individual school at the athlete. But I think it's the right decision. And I am in favor of players being able to unlock as much value as they possibly can while they're in college. But I also believe that in tandem with this, there shouldn't be age restrictions on going pro. You shouldn't have to go to college. You shouldn't have to be 19 or 21 or whatever the age is in order to go to the NBA or the NFL. Once you reach 18 years old, if somebody's willing to pay you for a job, you should be able to do it if you've got the talent that would make you worthy of being drafted. And ultimately, I believe, and I've been making this argument for a long time, I believe that you should, if you go to college, decide to go there, sign on like happens in college baseball. You go to college, you can go into the draft at 18, you can see what your value is, you can decide to go into a minor league of some form or fashion and sign that contract, or you need to go into a college and you stay for several years and then you go pro. So that college kids have options. They can figure out what their worth is. They can negotiate at 18 years old. But if you decide to go to college, much like Major League Baseball, you should stay 3 years if that works for you and then go pro. Now, if there's another sport that makes better difference, for instance, let's say you're 19 and you're ready to be a first-round NFL draft pick, there should also be waivers to allow that. All right, I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I will be back on Monday with the program. Could have some really big news for you on Monday's program. If you enjoy this show, as I know many of you do, please share it with your friends. I appreciate all of you downloading, watching our videos, consuming all of our content. Have fantastic weekends. I'll be at Zany's with Adam Carolla. We should have a good time here in a few hours at 7 o'clock Central Time in Nashville. And then he's doing his comedy special right after. I will see you guys. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. Kisses. Have great weekends. Go live your lives. Get the economy back rolling. I'll see you guys. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. Appreciate all of you. Have great weekends. See y'all.